So recently I attempted to make alpha naphthol, and these are the chemicals required. So we start things off by taking 2 grams of finely powdered naphthalene in a boiling tube. This is transferred by means of a paper to the naphthalene. 2 ml of concentrated sulfuric acid is added, and the contents are thoroughly mixed together. Then the test tube is stoppered. Now I am pouring some warm water, which temperature is around 45 degrees Celsius, in a thermos flask. And now, after filling water, I will place the boiling tube inside it and place the cap. On reaction of sulfuric acid with naphthalene at 40 degrees Celsius, naphthalene 1-sulphonic acid is formed. I kept it in thermos flask for 1 day, and after 1 day, I took out the boiling tube, and it seems that the reaction has occurred. Now, I will take out the contents. To the boiling tube, I will add 10 ml of distilled water to dissolve the naphthalene sulfonic acid. It is stirred with a glass rod, and then all the contents are transferred into a beaker. To this solution, sodium bicarbonate is added in small portions until effervescence ceases. After all the acid is being neutralized by the sodium bicarbonate, the solution of the sodium naphthalene sulfonate is filtered, and the precipitate is washed with distilled water. This solution is then concentrated by heating and then transferred into a small beaker. Now to this solution, to separate the sodium salt of naphthalene 1-sulphonic acid, I will be adding sodium chloride. This will separate the sodium salt of naphthalene 1-sulphonic acid by common ion effect. The precipitate was then vacuum filtered using a Hertz funnel. You could also use gravity filtration, but vacuum filtration is better as it is faster. Then I washed the precipitate with some amount of distilled water. This is dried 3.1 grams of sodium salt of naphthalene 1-sulphonic acid. Now in a mortar and pestle, I took 2 grams of sodium hydroxide. To this I added the sodium naphthalene 1-sulphonate and grinded them into a fine powder, and then I transferred all the powder into a metal container. I then heated this powder on low flame until it melted. I used a screwdriver for stirring the contents. After some time, things started melting. So the reaction which is supposed to occur is that the sodium naphthalene sulfonate is reacting with sodium hydroxide to produce sodium sulfite and sodium naphthoxide. When everything melted, I stopped heating and then I plunged the container into a beaker of water. I let it sit with stirring occasionally for few minutes so that everything would dissolve, and then after some time the container was empty, but I could see a precipitate inside the beaker, so I decided to filter this solution. To the filtrate, I added dilute sulfuric acid to separate the alpha naphthol. On adding dilute sulfuric acid, a strong smell of sulfur dioxide was observed, which meant that sodium sulfite was formed, but the precipitate in colloidal state and was passing through the filter paper, so I could not get anything by filtering it. Usually on adding acid to naphthoxide solution, we get a precipitate which can be easily filtered through filter paper, but in this case I got a colloidal solution which was passing through the filter paper without giving any residue. So like that, I could not get any alpha naphthol. Also, while heating the contents, I could not monitor the temperature of the reaction because it was sodium hydroxide. So if I would dip my thermometer inside it, it would dissolve the glass bulb of the thermometer. So I could not monitor the temperature, and maybe that the temperature was low for the reaction or maybe got too high that our product got burnt or sublimed. So maybe due to those reasons we could not get any precipitate. What are your views on this? Please comment